KMO, you're on. All right. Hey, everybody. It is I, KMO, your babysitter for the next hour. If you choose to stick around, it's not mandatory. So, Il Duke Earl says, please, no more chitcoin talk. Well, let's talk about Shiba Inu coin then. No, kidding. I know nothing about it. Let's see. Hikane, first question. Why are you grumpy as fuck? Well, it's irritation. Irritation with fanaticism. So, if you would, pop to the laptop here. Alrighty, so here we have Richard Branson.
No, I'm an adult in a space.
No, I don't think I have permission to play the audio, but we'll just let it run. He's taken some folks. I don't know who these folks are. Employees of his, I'm guessing. Girlfriend, maybe. I don't know. Up into almost space. But, you know, when the sky turns black, from my perspective, that's space. And so he says some, you know, happy-go-lucky bullshit, whatever. You know, if me, super rich dude, can do this, well, how about you kids with all of your, you know, wonderful youth? You can do so much more. It's like, whatever. It's happy horseshit talk. I'm not offended by it. I don't care. But what gets under my skin is people who are just really, really angry at Richard Branson here, or Elon Musk, or Jeff Bezos, because instead of, you know, bathing in champagne and covering themselves in, you know, oily naked women, they spend part of their fortunes advancing space exploration. This irritates people to no end. I mean, some people are really excited about it. I'm pretty excited about it. I've said many times, I think space is for robots. I think that sending humans into space for the time being is largely a stunt. Like the moon landings were a stunt, but I'm glad that it was a stunt that was performed. I think the real workhorses in space for the foreseeable future will be robots. It'll be robots mining asteroids. It'll be robots doing the bulk of planetary exploration. And that's great. It's just not as exciting as sending people up there, particularly when they're famous and you can hate them. Who hates Voyager? Who hates Curiosity? Who hates the Mars? What's the one that's didn't touch down? The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, MRO. I love space stuff, and I can't even remember the name of that thing. So nobody hates those. They hate people. We love to hate people. So Branson's getting hated on. I will, full disclosure, I bought a whopping $10 worth of Virgin Galactic stock last summer. It is now worth, well, my phone doesn't want to unlock. It is now worth $6.82. Down 7.2% today. So the billionaire founder getting almost up into space didn't seem to do much for their stock price. Let's see. So there you go, Ill Do Girls, talking about stocks, space stocks, not cryptocurrencies. Although if anybody asks me about cryptocurrencies, I'll happily answer your question. Parker says, it's true those women are not oily for naked. Oh, they're not oily or naked. No. I'm not going to comment on their personal hygiene, but yeah. I think they might be employees of his. Or maybe I'm getting confused with Bezos. Bezos is going up next week, and he's taking his brother and some of the employees. I don't know if it's going to be Amazon employees or Blue Origin employees. I would guess Blue Origin. Bruh, says first. I don't really know what that means. Bruh. But here's how out of touch I am. I saw that there was this, here it is. It's a cryptocurrency. Axie Infinity is a game that involves NFTs and this in-game crypto token, the Axie, I think it's called. It's symbol AXS. And I saw that the AXS token had appreciated dramatically over the course of a day. So I started doing some investigation. I downloaded the game and couldn't even really get it installed. So I saw that there was a, Discord. A Discord server devoted to it. I can't make heads or tails of Discord. So, here I am trying to be this, on the leading edge of crypto gaming. And I can't even figure out Discord. Makes me feel old. Hikani says, Jeff Bezos is Lex Luthor. He's really not. I don't want to say I knew him way back when, but I knew him way back when. I've met Jeff Bezos when I interviewed for Amazon. He was my third and final interview. Very early in my time there, they packed the whole company, like the whole, not the warehouse crew, but all of the office crew, into 2 buses, or maybe it was just 1 bus. And we drove up to this Bavarian-themed town in the Washington Cascade Mountains. And we had a weekend of, rah-rah and strategy meetings and just having fun. And I talked to Jeff Bezos back then, and I've seen interviews with him and such. I know his passion for space is genuine, and it definitely predates Amazon.com, long predates Blue Origin. He's been thinking about ways to get humans off the planet to establish a permanent foothold in space since he was in college, if not before. This is a long-held passion of his. Now, if you make $1 gazillion and you do it supposedly by being smart, which is what Jeff has done, I don't believe for a second that I could keep my ego in check. So does he have super villain, vibes now with the shaved head and the big muscles? Sure. He's ripped now. He's jacked and he's got the chrome dome. Wears his aviator shades. He's got a rocket company. He's going up in that rocket next week. I never have and never will have to contend with such ego-inflating, elements in my life. He's easy to hate, but you know what? Your hate, I mean, maybe on some esoteric level, it's harming him. I think more likely on a physiological level, it's harming you. I don't know. I try not to be overly committed to any idea. I try not to be ideological to a fault, passionate about things that I well could be wrong about. Because you know what? I got a head full of mush. Alrighty. First says, good content. Oh, yeah, same on Louis Rossman's channel. Okay, I got to back up a little. I don't understand. Parker says, I was just watching a video down on Tesla for its anti-right to repair stuff. Yeah, Tesla's kind of the Apple in that regard, aren't they? And it's not just Tesla. I mean, it's even GM and Toyota and all the big auto manufacturers. To some extent, even without, contractually locking their customers, out, preventing you from lifting the hood, they're doing it technologically. Just so many people who grew up working on cars with their dads, teaching their kids how to work on cars. Suddenly, well, it's not suddenly, it's happened over, a couple of decades, but now, you pop the hood on a new car and you can't slip a piece of paper between, various engine parts. It's just all down in there, whereas the cars I grew up with, you pop the hood on the car and you look down and you can see the pavement below the engine. There's just lots of room in there for you to get in there and do stuff, and it's just not the case anymore. And now everything is computerized under the hood of that car. So, yeah, while Tesla, they don't even sell you the car. They basically sell you the permission to drive the car, but they retain the right to shut it down at any time should you do anything outside of the terms of service. Even car companies that don't do that contractually, who actually sell you the car and say you can do what you want with it, can you write code? Can you diagnose the code? I mean, if it's a code-based issue that's causing the problem, you can bypass it, maybe. But, it's so dense down in there, you're going to have to take the whole thing apart just to get at any little piece of it. They've engineered it so that, automotive, like long won, dearly held automotive knowledge has been rendered useless. I don't think that's a good thing, but I could be wrong about it. I'm not going to hold it, as a dear conviction. Let's see. It's a joke, boy, nearly cool enough. Lex may be a villain, but a villain I respect. Depends who's playing him. I didn't care for the Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor, I have to say. First says, yeah, same on Louis Rossman's channel. I just don't know who that is. Good content. Static Warp says, apparently we all watch Louis. I don't know who Louis Rossman is. Help me out. Rich Rebuilds, too. KMO, have some confidence. You've been on the bug screen. You mean the windshield? Are you talking Britishisms there? Oh, the big screen. Yes. Oh, I've been on the big screen at the Bellows Falls Opera House movie theater. That's how big I am. But, Hikane has as well, so he's likely to think that's a big deal. Let's see. Thanks, Parker, for the Rich Rebuilds tip. Parker, how long since you've driven a car, KMO? It's been a couple weeks. I rented a car to drive down to see my kids maybe 3 weeks. Actually, you know what? It was days before I did my first 3-day fast. And this is my fourth 3-day fast in a row. Started today. So, yeah, it's been a month. It's been a month since I've driven a car. Or a little less than a month, I think. Why do you ask, Parker? I was talking to Rose about this just the other day. I've gone years, well, maybe not years, but I've gone at least a year in the past without driving a car. And the first time you get back into a car after a long period of not driving, it's a little weird for like 10 seconds, and then everything just kicks right back in, and all of those reflexes, all that muscle memory, it's all comes right back, like riding a bike. First says, at Static Warp, yeah, KMO attracts the same archetype of person I've noticed. Ooh, what archetype is that? Let's see. Nice. I've been meaning to catch up on your fasting content. You know what? There's not a lot to say about it, except I discovered on the third fast that if instead of going completely 0 calorie, I have heavy cream in my coffee, so no carbs, but like 150, maybe 200 calories a day of fat and protein, that I lose more weight. Basically I'm going keto for 3 days a week, and very low calorie and keto, and that doesn't have the same effect. 0 calories, it tells the body, okay, we're in for lean times. Like slow everything down to a crawl. And it seems like, keeping a modicum of protein and fat passing through, the body says, don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. We're not it's not belt tightening time. Alrighty. Static Warp says, KMO, Louis Rossman is an NYC-based computer repair business owner who specializes in fixing Apple products. He has a YouTube channel which is highly entertaining. Well, I will check it out. Amazon's kind of the same way. There are businesses that, their bread and butter is putting a new battery in your Kindle Fire, which doesn't work anymore because the battery won't charge, which is where my Kindle is. And my Kindle Fire 10-inch, Android tablet, for like a year and a half, it was impossible to separate me from that thing. I just loved it. And then it stopped charging. Not all at once, but the charge didn't lean it. You know how it is when a battery dies. You can't access the battery in that thing. And Amazon offers to buy it back from you. And the one question they ask is, will the battery charge? And if the answer is no, they'll give you $5. $5 for a tablet. Well, I didn't pay. I think I paid like $70 for it, but it sells for $110 on their website now. So there are businesses where you can send your tablet in, and they'll replace the battery or replace the charging port or whatever it is that makes it not work anymore, and charge you, I don't know, $60, something like that. And so the question becomes, well, what's on that thing? I can't charge it up. I can't do a factory reset on it. What data of mine is on that thing? Do I want to send it to somebody I don't know? And if not, do I want to send it to Amazon for $5 frickin'? I mean, I think I would get more satisfaction taking a sledgehammer to it, except I really enjoyed the device when it worked. So this whole, you can't even change the battery thing, I don't like it. I've praised this phone to high heaven. I love it, love it, love it, but it's the same way. I can't change the battery. When this battery stops charging, I get a new phone. Alrighty, what do we got? Static Warp. He has recently become a big political advocate for right to repair, traveling around and speaking at state assemblies and whatnot. Yeah, here's my issue. I was just saying Discord doesn't make any sense to me. And I know, first, he's a wizard with Discord. He runs his live streams off Discord, and he's got all these plugins and does all this groovy stuff. I don't get it. So for me, right to repair, I mean, you can wave a magic wand or sign some document or have the president sign some document. I suddenly have the right to change the battery in here. It doesn't make the phone open up for me, and if the problem isn't the battery, but something else, and I don't understand it, it doesn't help me out. I'm an old man living in a world of technology I don't understand, and damn kids, they seem to be so easy with it. Yep. Not having right to repair really helps companies get away with planned obsolescence. Yes. And Apple in particular has admitted, sending out software updates which slow down the processing in older phones. They claim they do it so that your battery will last longer, but they also know that it's going to irritate a lot of people into just shelling out money for a new phone. All right. Well, hey, you guys are keeping me going with the comments today. Good work. Connie says, not having right to repair. I already read that. Well, you should at least have the right to pay someone else to fix it instead of allowing a monopoly on the market. I agree. And so I guess we cannot criticize Amazon in the same breath with Tesla and Apple in that regard, because there are businesses. I mean, there are third-party businesses that specialize just in repairing those Amazon products as they, obsolesce, or as they become decrepit. What's the word I'm looking for? As they, oh, it'll come to me. Setacorp says, anybody have any opinions on the Young Turks / Jimmy Dore war? I do. I think Jimmy just needs to step back. He's got his own show, he's got his own gig going, and he just needs to ignore the Young Turks. I think the Young Turks, I enjoyed the Young Turks. I was a supporter back when in 2016 during the Democratic primary process. In 2018, I went to LA to go to Politicon. I saw Cenk there on the floor of Politicon, and that was kind of a thrill for me. It's like, hey, there's a celebrity and a celebrity for something that I like. He was an advocate for, he was a Bernie supporter, very passionate for Bernie. Now he just seems like a nut. I think that people on the left who are smart and who try to wrap their brains around just the melange of inconsistent grab bag nonsense positions that a good Democrat is supposed to hold, they go insane. And Cenk just seems to be that way. And then, what's her name? Anna Kasparian, did you say? Something like that. Accusing Jimmy Dore of sexual harassment because he made comments like, she dressed nice. Okay. Could you be more of a caricature if you tried? As Glenn Greenwald said, for the left these days, accusing people of, Me Tooing people on, absolutely clearly made up grounds, and also calling everybody you disagree with a racist is the crack pipe that the Democrats just can't put down these days. It's like they understand somewhere deep down inside, they understand how absurd they are, how much damage they're doing to causes that they claim to support, and how much it just makes them look ridiculous. They understand, but they can't stop. They can't stop, If I say something, you're a Democrat and you disagree with me, racist. Anyway, Static says, let me back up, make sure I'm not missing anything. No, I wasn't. Okay. Static says, anybody, I already read that. Hikani says, TYY just suck. Oh, the Young Turks. Don't know the other guy, but TYT are always wrong. So, the other guy, Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is a comedian. And he's pretty much a heterodox comedian these days. And, he'll poke fun at the right or the left. But the left, they serve up the material to you these days. Like the Republicans, like the right used to do. When they were in power. And when they could reliably just throw out patriotic and religious platitudes. And think that like in the days of Bill Bennett. I'm sure a lot of you don't remember Bill Bennett or William Bennett, the morality czar. He had a series of books called the Books of Virtue. And they were these dumb little, like Aesop's fable stories about, how people should be good. The whole while he had this raging gambling addiction and this raging, alcoholism and he was such a nicotine addict. He'd be wearing multiple patches and still smoking away. And just a total slave to all of his own addictions and vices, and yet made millions upon millions of dollars preaching virtue to the youth. And I won't get into it any deeper than that. Absolute, total frickin' hypocrite. But the variety of hypocrisy that he was serving up back in the late 80s, early 90s was pure gold. You could take that stuff to the bank. It's a different hypocrisy that you can take to the bank these days, but it's equally ridiculous, and it's mostly concentrated on the left. Don't think that I'm a right-winger, though, except in some esoteric sense, in valuing free markets in certain contexts, respecting private property, that sort of thing. But that's classical liberalism, right? It's weird that makes me a right-winger. I think that, who was it? I was reading just before I came over here, and it was on Twitter. I won't try to find it on camera, but I think it was Bo Weingard. You know what? I will try to find it on camera. Go ahead and throw up the laptop screen here. How do you spell Weingard? Is it I-E? Spelling. Stay in school, kids, but, do more than just stay in school. Actually study. Bo Weingard. Can't believe I'm scrolling through Twitter here on a live stream. It occurs to me from time to time, like I'll read something and I'll think, oh, I should take a screenshot of that so I can have it to refer to on the live stream. And another part of me says, yeah, you really should. And then the first part says, I'll do it later. And I don't. All right. Come on, Twitter. If I say I'm looking for @Bo, don't you know who I'm talking about? How many Bo's do I follow? Oh, you thing. Bow? Let's see. Somebody helping me with the spelling of Bo Weingard? No. All right. Forget it. Let's go on to a different topic. I'll find it when I get home and I'll slap my forehead. Let's see. Space is soy boy cope, says first. So, space is soy boy cope. I think what that means is soy boys are non-masculine placaters. Masculinity is demonized, so the soy boy is going along with that program. They're doing nothing at all threateningly masculine. And cope means it's something they distract themselves with to soothe the fact that they're not getting laid. Have I got that right first? I disagree, particularly in Jeff Bezos' case. I mean, he's never been a soy boy, as far as I know. When he was younger, he was soft because he didn't work out, but he was laser focused on what he wanted, and he was moving heaven and earth to make it happen. And he was into space the whole time. I mean, it's not a coping mechanism. It's not, and I'm the same way. I mean, there have been times in my life when I was, neck deep in oily naked women, and I was still enthusiastic about space. So I just don't agree. Don't agree. Parker says, oh, Hikane, you are on the other team than TYT, so they are always wrong. Static says, Glenn's video on the situation was great. I never did watch the video. I read the intro to the video on the live stream last week. I never watched the video. I pretty much decided not to watch Crystal, Sauger, Kyle Kalinske anymore. I've never enjoyed Jimmy Dore, but the way they treated him made me question. Oh, have Crystal and Sauger and Kyle Kalinske joined the Jimmy Dore dogpile? That's sad. China Joe wants to monitor our text messages for vax disinformation. China Joe doesn't have the means, but Google sure does. Facebook sure does, and they are more than willing. And that was PD, by the way. Static says, their integrity. SM, Hikane, better question to ask is, why do you care? The more you look into it, the more you'll realize that it doesn't matter. Of course, the YouTube algorithm will keep pushing useless drama at us. The YouTube algorithm will push whatever you've selected. This is something that was really interesting. A few weeks ago, time dilation, it's probably a few months ago at this point, there was a problem with my Roku TV, and if I was logged into YouTube and there was an unskippable commercial before a video, it would play the commercial and then not the video. I couldn't watch anything that was monetized. So the workaround was to log out and just watch anonymously. And when I wasn't logged in as me, and it was just, some dude, random viewer, I got completely different suggestions. One of which was the Try channel, which is where Irish people try whatever, like Irish people try Texas barbecue, or Irish people try American energy drinks, or all kinds of stuff. And I thought that was hilarious. And I watched it again and again and again. And then the Roku issue got fixed and I logged back in, but I would still do searches for the Try channel. And now the YouTube algorithm pushes the Try channel at me. and I'm grateful because it's still funny. I still enjoy it. But there was stuff on YouTube that I would enjoy that YouTube would never show to me because it wasn't one of the things that I had reinforced before by selecting it, because it wasn't on offer to me individually. You know, to me specifically, it wasn't on offer. But to just random dude, yeah, it was a choice. You know. Okay. Static Warp says, plus, there really is no journalism happening with any of those shows. It's just commentary. After a certain point, commentary ceases to be useful. So I will say, particularly with Sagar, I mean, he's got his roots in, he was a White House correspondent. He's been part of the White House press pool, and he really understands the Washington, D.C. Media ecosphere. And he's going to be sensitive to the emergence of certain stories within that ecosphere that I'll just never know about. So if in his commentary he doesn't bring attention to them, I'll never know that those stories exist. So to some extent, they're not just commentary, but they're a filter. And because they're a sort of heterodox, just criticizing power in general, and in particular criticizing the media for its very insular and insider status and focus, and ignoring, the interest, like ignoring the interests of the Joe Rogan audience. Joe Rogan has a much bigger audience than all those cable news channels put together, and yet the mainstream establishment media doesn't acknowledge that, and two, doesn't acknowledge that the people who tune in to Joe Rogan, that their interests are legitimate. So Crystal and Sagar and the people who are still on the Hill, like Ryan Grimm, on Rising, which is a production of The Hill, they are tuned in to that vibe. And for me, the stories that they pick up to comment on, I wouldn't be aware of those stories, So I don't really watch Rising or Breaking Points much anymore. But when I do, I usually learn something that I didn't know before. So it's not, from my perspective, it's not just commentary. Let's see. First says, more like China Trump. There never been a president that's assisted China more than Trump. I would be interested to hear why you think so. More than Nixon? Static Warper says, useful. PD, sure. Yeah, I understand it's the culture of the internet and it's the culture of live streams, but, if I get on some rant, I go off for 5 minutes, and then I look back at the chat, and I've scrolled back to make sure I'm not missing anybody, and I see a comment like, sure. I have no idea what that applies to. Static says, first, I'm interested to hear how he helped China. Honestly interested in your take. Yes, as am I. That was not sarcasm. I really am interested to hear how you think Trump helped China. Let's see. Parker says, come on, KMO, how hard is it to take a screenshot? Actually, I don't know how to do it on a mobile device myself. I actually do know how to do it. Taking the screenshot is not hard. What's hard, and it's not even hard. It's not like difficult in that it challenges my technical know-how. It's just a detail that I don't attend to in life. But the part that I fall down on is getting all of those screenshots from various devices in one place, all formatted so they'll look about right when on a laptop screen, and then organized into like a slide presentation, or they could just be a bunch of images all in one Instagram tweet or something. That's the part that I fall down on. And not because it's difficult, it's just I don't do it. So no excuses, just reportage on where I fall down. Static says, at PD, all our texts are monitored. I do wonder what actions are taken by people doing the monitoring. Well, the thing is, it's not people doing the monitoring, it's algorithms. And they're really ham-fisted in their, in the actions that they take. Like this happens, it happens on Patreon a lot. I did 3 weeks where I was doing 1,000 words a night on Patreon. And pretty much, and I should have taken screenshots of this because some of these were hilarious. The Patreon algorithms would review the text that I had just composed and come to absurd conclusions. Like one time it said, it looks like you're promoting, not a lottery, but a a raffle. It says, it looks like you're promoting a raffle, which is not allowed according to the the Patreon terms of service. If you continue, your channel or your account might be subject to deletion. I'm like, really? I mean, I've been writing about who knows what, Bitcoin probably, or space exploration, or any of the things that I like, the things I'm enthusiastic about. It has nothing to do with the raffle. I have no idea what language in the text that I've just composed triggered the algorithm into thinking that I was participating or promoting a raffle. In another instance, it's clearly an algorithm designed to find pornography. And I had posted an image. It showed some skin, but it wasn't even like bikini level, showing of skin. It was like a woman in a skirt, and you could see her legs. And Patreon said, it looks like you're about to publish some pornography, which is against our terms of service. Your account could be deleted. And with each one of these, I have to think, okay, do I want to publish nothing? Or do I want to take the risk of having my account shut down and there goes like a quarter of my monthly income? But it's never humans making these determinations. I mean, the algorithm will flag it and send it to a human. The human most likely is working in the Philippines or maybe India, and they're looking at, questionable garbage all day long. And yeah, they probably take one look at my post and say, well, I don't even feel like reading that, so it's fine, leave it. Or, they look at the image and it's like, oh, clearly that's not pornography. But you never know. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe it's 10 minutes until lunchtime and they're hangry, and they're just delete. But really, the first line is the algorithm. First says, Static Warp, look up a channel called Kraut, Kraut, in his video, Trump's Biggest Failure. He handed the superpower spot straight to China. Yeah, I'll watch that. I don't think China is... I don't think they're the ascendant power that, alarmists make them out to be. Static Warp says, thanks first, I will check that out. It's great and well researched. We create our stories. Super Chain. Hikani says, the Try channel is good. I've been watching How to Cook That. She's a talented lady in both cooking and video production. PD says, at Static Warp, it's shocking that they're publicly endorsing the idea. Let's see. I have not seen that Try channel, even though I watch a different similar channel, Tribal People Try. When I started watching a bunch of Try channel videos, YouTube did push some of those Tribal People Try things at me, and I haven't watched any, and it stopped pushing them. Where these rural Pakistanis try fast food or whatever. First, the archetype is washout nerd. Oh, for people interested in space? Yeah, there's a lot of people that are really passionate about space who got it going on. I mean, think about how much of the universe is composed of the surface of this planet and the people walking around doing stuff on it, even the Chads getting laid. And then think about how much of the universe is not that, To say that people who are focused on more than just this little thin layer of crust and biosphere and atmosphere, on the surface of this rocky small planet. I mean, it's pretty big for the rocky planets in this solar system, but really, in terms of even just the solar system, the part of it that, where there are economics and winners and losers and politics is this infinitesimal portion of the whole. There's a lot of possibility in the other parts that isn't this thin little layer. Static Warp says, PD, I agree. I guess I'm just shocked but not surprised. A good reason to investigate alternatives to SMS and Android, iOS, smartphones. Yeah, I mean, what is there? There's Periscope. That's supposedly supposedly WhatsApp is encrypted end to end, but it's owned by Zuckerberg, so who believes that? I mean, I believe it is encrypted end to end, but I also believe that if the NSA came a knocking and said, "Yo, Mark, we need to know what KMO has been saying to his girlfriend on WhatsApp," that Zuckerberg's not going to lose any sleep over ethical issues around turning that information over. Parker writes, yeah, I did not know of that channel Kraut either. I will check it out. All kinds of stuff I'm learning here. So question is, will I remember it? Because I'm not taking notes. Rising has really improved in Crystal and Sagar's absence, says Static Warp. Ryan Grimm and Emily Jashinsky are much more tuned in and have insights that I find new and useful. Not as flashy, but the content is better. You know, I believe that. I really like Ryan Grimm. Emily, I guess, is the replacement for Sagar. She's the right winger, but she's very good in a way that Sagar is not about presenting a right wing perspective in a way that has appeal to the left. So I like that about her. But still, I'm much happier now that I'm watching a lot less political content, so I don't plan to dive back in. I do like to read articles that Ryan Grimm writes for The Hill. Good stuff. We Creator Story writes, the more viewers, the more to filter through, quality and importance slips through. A voluntary hierarchy may be rational, but challenging. You know, here's the thing. The more data we generate, the better the algorithms are going to get at figuring out, like, I was mocking the Patreon algorithms for completely misidentifying stuff that I wrote as something that it's just clearly not. But my account never got shut down. So at some point, either a second algorithmic pass over that same material or sending it to some low-paid human in some, poor country somewhere, eventually the decision was made, oh, this is actually okay. And I think that, like, every time that happens, there's a little feedback for the algorithm. It's like, oh, here now is an item in a structured labeled data set of things that had been mistakenly flagged as promoting a raffle or as pornography or whatever. All right. First, interesting, yet KNS fans were screaming that the show is done for without them. Well, sure. I mean, if what you like are the personalities, then the personalities move on. But really, I don't know who behind the lens or behind the scenes at The Hill said, this is the format we're going for. There is a whole area of examination that the institutional needs of the mainstream media prevent them from examining. We're just going to have a field day looking at that and then mocking the corporate media for failing to do so. I don't think that Sagar and Crystal came up with that agenda. I think that was something that was spawned at The Hill, and it will continue without the personalities who got big. But, good for the two personalities who got big, and they get to take that same program to their own show while that original program continues on the original show with new hosts. I'm all for it. Win-win, as far as I'm concerned. Rising has really improved in Crystal and Sagar's absence. Just read that. We Creator Story says, the more viewers, the more to filter through. Quality and I read that. How did I read these out of order? Anyway, first writes, interesting, yet KNS fans, okay, this is where we are. We need more in-touch people. Being in the upper echelons of media keeps you in an ivory tower. Yeah. And what is it? It's the Upton Sinclair quote. It's hard to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. I think as soon as institutional incentives change, or when it's clear that operations like The Hill, Joe Rogan, what's the new show? Breaking Points. When those are really making a lot of money, eventually somebody at the networks are going to have to do a calculation and say, okay, we maintain this, this anti-reality bias in order to stay in the good graces of government. And yet here these upstart competitors are kicking our ass in terms of ratings, and they're making money that we're just letting go, money that we're leaving on the table and walking away from in order to maintain this anti-reality narrative. Eventually, somebody's going to break. And as soon as one big player breaks, they're all going to break, I suspect. At least I can visualize that happening. I'm not predicting the future because, I used to, Jim Kunstler every year, he's got a forecast, in his blog. He writes a forecast of what's going to happen in the coming year. And for year after year after year, it's like, this is the year, it's all going to fall apart. And then John Michael Greer would go the opposite direction, and he'd have a year-end prediction, forecast for the coming year, and he'd basically say, at the end of this year, things are going to be pretty much like they are now, except just a little bit worse, which is, those are both very safe predictions. I mean, you can safely predict Armageddon because it's exciting and people will tune in. And if Armageddon doesn't materialize on your timetable, people will forgive you because they'll want the same jolt of your next prediction of Armageddon that they got from the previous one. So, they're not concerned about accuracy. They're concerned about how you make them feel in the moment. John Michael Greer's, his methodology is amusing to me and apparently amusing enough to enough people that he keeps doing it. And his listeners or his readers, because he is strictly a text guy, his readers come back for more. So I enjoy both takes. But I used to do a year-end prediction for the year to come, and I was just swinging for the fences, like predicting really specific yet unlikely stuff. Like one year, I think I predicted a plague. It wasn't the end of 2019. That would have been impressive. It was some other year. And I made very specific predictions about stuff that I knew would be wrong. But if by some miracle I happened to catch it right, boy, what an impressive feat. I could make a career off of that. Okay, Benjamin writes, KMO, what do you think of Alison Morrow? Did you see YouTube's recent bullying of her? Her interview with an Assange specialist was ripe. All I know of Alison Morrow is what you have sent to me, Benjamin. I certainly feel a camaraderie for her. I've seen a YouTube live stream where she was talking about how this was her opportunity to live stream because her daughter was asleep. I mean, she's a parent. She's a real person. She has real pressures, and she doesn't have this institutional apparatus to assist her. So I'm on her side to that extent, but I haven't taken in enough of her material to really comment on it. Hikani says, everyone thinks they are in touch. I don't. I fully realize I've got this very select group of people who tune in to watch me here ramble about whatever on a Tuesday night. And we all watch some of the same stuff. I mean, you guys are talking about things I don't know anything about, but I talk about Rising and I talk about Breaking Points. And I think most of you watch those shows. You know what they are. But we're a very select group. So I fully understand that I'm not in touch with the zeitgeist, as I mentioned. And it's not just Discord. Modern computer interfaces, UX and UI as they call it, UX/UI, they don't make sense to me. And, I came up on an Apple II Plus where when you turned on the computer, you put in that 5.25-inch floppy disk and you booted up the operating system. The operating system, which was not in the computer until you put that floppy in the drive, close the door and hit power. You loaded the operating system every time. And then the interface was basic. You had a command line prompt, and it wasn't Unix, it was basic, a basic environment. And, if you wanted to run a program, you typed run and then the name of the program, and you hit enter. That's computers for me. I understand the desktop overlay on that. It's like I click on this icon, and it's the equivalent of typing, run Chrome. And to my mind, there's a directory of files. There's a directory of programs. And there's a command you can type to find that directory. So in the Windows universe, I understand, these icons on screen and these menus that you pull up by clicking on like the start button or whatever. These are approximations for getting to those things. But in the Apple world, I don't get it. Like, where are the files? What's the file structure? I don't get it. So stuff that sort of is iterating on that whole Apple mentality where you're not even supposed to know what a computer is. You're not supposed to know the difference between an application and a file. The web interfaces that I think spin out from that mentality, I'm clueless. I have no idea. So when I look at Discord, I get more the sort of Unixy basic vibe from it, but I haven't cracked it yet. I don't get it. But I understand that, somebody who's 12, they get it. It makes perfect sense to them. Oh, I guess it doesn't help that when I was at Amazon doing customer service, that was all in a Unix environment. So, I grew up on the command line prompt, and then my first real job, not my first real job, but one of my early jobs was also in a Unix environment, which kind of spoiled me. It's, if you know the commands, it's really quick. It's really nimble. And it also gives me weird pieces of vocabulary that I throw out sometimes in casual conversation, and it doesn't occur to me that people don't know what it means to grep. Anyway, Static Warp says, UX and UI has gotten so much worse now that it is a specialization. I had to upgrade macros on my work computer. They completely remove the widget that you use to view your notifications. Now you have to click on the clock to see them. For me, the worst in terms of web and social media interfaces is Twitter. Like, I used Twitter for almost a decade before I realized that in order to see the comments, you don't click on the comment bubble or the number next to it. You have to find some portion of the original tweet which is not a hyperlink and doesn't look anything like a hyperlink, and click that to see the comments. Who came up with that? Alrighty. First says, those machines replaced cashiers. Have they been getting slower? A new conspiracy is growing about the Great Slowdown, where computers are becoming slower and slower in place of business. This is news to me. Let's see. First continues, I have been seeing anecdotal evidence of this. I don't fully understand, I don't quite grok the claim. Those machines replace cashiers. Have they been getting slower? A new conspiracy is growing about the Great Slowdown, where computers are becoming slower and slower in place of business. Why? What would be the point of this Great Slowdown? Static Warp says, so UX design seems mostly concerned with hiding things from the user and making menus with words into little symbols that are difficult to understand. Yeah. I do a lot of video editing on my phone. I use Power Director, I think it is. And they've just revamped their user interface. And in so doing, they have taken away functionality. Like, I used to be able to format text, in titles. Can't do that anymore. I used to be able to italicize or put a drop shadow under text. Can't do that anymore. Interface changes and functionality goes away. Hikani writes, looks like we're all in agreement. Modern UI sucks. It really, really sucks. Although I understand that my preference of just a command line is not in the cards. It's not coming back. First says, designed to irritate and then spend even more money on complex carbs to cope. I'll take my complex carbs in the form of beer. Thank you very much. And yes, that's definitely a coping mechanism. Parker writes, that is confusing about Twitter. When I rarely go there, I always click the wrong thing and try to see comments at first. Yeah, it makes zero sense. There's an icon below every tweet with a little dialogue balloon. That indicates comments, right? There's a number next to that to tell you how many comments are there. You'd think that clicking on that is what would get you to the comments, but no. You have to find something which bears no visual relationship whatsoever to comments in the tweet, and that's what will get you the comments. F, fail. UX, fail, fail, fail. Why is this platform important? It's important because that's where the liberal elite blue check media go to virtue signal to one another. It's the people who use it who make it important. We Creator Story writes, Static Warp and First dropped some comments and my last one KMO overlooked. Delta Wave Radio writes, Windows 8 was a significant backward calamity. Yeah, Windows 8, I loved Windows 7. Loved it. I didn't have any experience with Windows 8. I went directly from 7 to 10, I guess it was. And 10 broke the machine that I upgraded on. Let's see. That was porn, KMO. Patreon is very Puritan. Static Warp. The shittiest thing is that there is no real reason to keep changing this stuff. They just keep improving things for no discernible reason. Oh, well, other than UX, IX, whatever, designers need a job. Steve Ballmer, what rewarded with a $20 billion payday for Windows 8? They are the ascended power. So going back, looking for the comments that I missed. Okay. Are you having JMG on to talk about his latest book, The King in Orange? Okay. His wife Sarah sent it to me, and I read the first chapter, and there was nothing wrong with it. The fact that I did not continue reading is not a criticism of the book, and it's still sitting right next to my easy chair on the arm of the couch, but I haven't gotten very far with it. So I will read more, and when I have read more, I will extend the invitation. Although, for years I interviewed John Michael Greer. I was using Skype and a third-party program to record Skype, and I would Skype out to his phone because he doesn't Skype, he doesn't Zoom, he doesn't do anything except landline telephone. If you want to interview him, that's how you do it. Or you arrange to meet him someplace in person. But he will not do any sort of web-based telephony. So can you do that in Zoom? Because I don't have access to my Skype account anymore. Since Microsoft took over Skype, I haven't been able to log in. So can you dial out to a phone from Zoom? That's what I'll need to be able to do in order to record a new phone interview with JMG. All right. Other comments that I missed. If I haven't addressed your comment, I'm trying to get them all. Just cut and paste it, so it appears again at the bottom of the screen. The thread from Martyr made me nuts. Tucker Carlson read it on air. I forget if I found that out from your podcast after I looked up more. Okay, so Martyr. He's a podcaster, and he had a long Twitter thread where he talked about all the ways these are facts, factual misrepresentations perpetrated by the mainstream media, which gave the MAGA folk, the Trump folk, the Trump supporters, not the official, Trump and his team, but his supporters, gave them irrefutable evidence that they are being lied to and gaslit by the corporate media. So I'd be curious to know in what capacity it made you nuts. Let's see. Philosophically, it seems like you should be all about Linux, KMO. I have no objection to Linux. It would just... Here's the thing. Photoshop, Adobe Audition, Premiere Pro, those are the big three for me. Adobe products don't play well with Linux, or they didn't last time I looked into it. And I use those programs every day. Not Premiere Pro so much, but Photoshop and Adobe Audition I use all the time. So if those are not easily... If it's not easy for me to access those, then, the operating system that doesn't support them is of no use to me. Alrighty, Benjamin writes, the thread from Martyr made me nuts. Tucker Carlson read it on air. I forgot about it. I forget if I found it from your podcast after I looked it up. So yeah, what made you nuts about that, Benjamin? Jesse writes, The King in Orange is about magic. I think it's about, I haven't gotten very far into it, but I think it's about occultism. And I think it's, like John Michael Greer, he wrote it's either a single long post, he writes some very long posts, or it was a series of posts about Kek, the Egyptian god. Oh, shoot, it's 6:25. I need to go. There's definitely some occult stuff going on in The King in Orange. All right. SM7B. All right, I'm out. Talk to you soon. Fade.